The laughter around the restaurant faded into silence the moment I saw the ring. It sparkled under the candlelight on another woman's finger, the same vintage diamond ring my husband had slipped onto my hand 28 years earlier while promising to love only me for the rest of his life. At first, I convinced myself it couldn't be the same ring. Thousands of rings looked alike. Then I noticed the tiny scratch near the center stone, the one Daniel accidentally made while helping me build our first backyard fence. My heart stopped. Across the room, my husband was laughing with a woman young enough to be our daughter. He hadn't noticed me yet. I quietly stood, paid my bill, and walked out before either of them saw my face. I cried the entire drive home, but by the time I reached the house, the tears had disappeared. In their place was something much calmer. I wasn't planning revenge. I wanted the truth. My name is Laura Bennett, and the night I saw my wedding ring on another woman's hand became the beginning of the biggest surprise of my life. Daniel and I had built what everyone called the perfect marriage. We married young, struggled through years of unpaid bills, celebrated every small success together, and raised two wonderful children who had recently started families of their own. Friends admired our relationship because we rarely argued. Looking back, I realize we rarely argued because I spent years ignoring the little signs that something wasn't right. Business trips became longer. Phone calls ended the moment I entered the room. Our anniversary dinners were replaced with important meetings. Every excuse sounded reasonable until they all started sounding exactly the same. The missing wedding ring was simply the first lie I could actually hold in my hands. The next morning, I opened the jewelry box where I always kept my ring while gardening. It was empty. Daniel had taken it weeks earlier without asking. When I calmly asked him if he had seen it, he smiled without hesitation. "Maybe you misplaced it," he said while pouring his coffee. 28 years together, and he lied to my face as easily as commenting on the weather. I nodded politely and changed the subject. That afternoon, I hired a private investigator for the first time in my life. Within 10 days, every question I had ever ignored suddenly had an answer. Daniel wasn't traveling for work. He had been renting an apartment across town. The young woman from the restaurant was named Emma. According to the investigator's report, Daniel had introduced himself to her as a widower whose wife had passed away 3 years earlier. I stared at that sentence for nearly an hour. He hadn't simply betrayed me. He had erased me. The report included dozens of photographs, but one image caught my attention more than the others. Emma was smiling as she admired the wedding ring. She looked genuinely happy. She didn't look like someone trying to steal another woman's husband. She looked like someone who believed she had finally found love. Instead of confronting Daniel, I made a decision that surprised even myself. I wrote Emma a short letter asking if we could meet privately. I didn't accuse her of anything. I simply told her there was something she deserved to know. 2 days later she agreed. We met at a quiet cafe outside the city. She arrived smiling politely, but the moment I placed our wedding photograph on the table beside a copy of our marriage certificate, the color drained from her face. She looked from the photograph to my face and then back to the ring on her finger. "No," she whispered. "He told me you died." I nodded slowly. "As you can see, I'm very much alive." Tears immediately filled her eyes. She removed the ring from her finger before I even asked. "I am so sorry," she whispered over and over again. I believed every word because her heartbreak looked just as real as mine. For nearly 2 hours we compared stories. Every business trip Daniel described to me had been a vacation with Emma. Every late-night meeting had been dinner with her family. He had promised to marry her once the legal paperwork was complete. She had absolutely no idea that paperwork didn't exist. Before leaving, Emma reached into her purse and handed me a small envelope. "I found these in his apartment," she said quietly. Inside were copies of life insurance forms, hidden bank statements, and paperwork showing Daniel planned to sell our family home after convincing me to sign what he claimed were routine tax documents. He had spent months preparing for a future that didn't include me. But he never imagined the woman he lied to would become the person who exposed him. My attorney reviewed every document the very next morning. Together we froze the property transfer before it could happen and protected every shared asset. When Daniel arrived home that evening pretending everything was normal, he found Emma sitting beside me at our dining room table. Neither of us said a word. Emma quietly placed my wedding ring in front of him. His face turned completely white. For the first time in almost 3 decades, Daniel had nothing to say. He looked at Emma. Then at me. Then at the stack of legal documents waiting beside the ring. "Laura," he finally whispered. I calmly interrupted him. "Don't lie again. Not to me. Not to her. You're out of chances." He packed a suitcase that night without another argument. Months later our divorce was finalized. Emma testified honestly about everything she knew, making the legal process much easier than anyone expected. She later wrote me a letter apologizing once more for a betrayal that had never truly been hers. Surprisingly, we stayed in touch. Today she is happily married to a kind man who actually was single when he met her. As for me, I never wore the wedding ring again. Instead, I had it melted down and redesigned into 2 smaller necklaces for my daughter and granddaughter. Gold can be reshaped. So can a broken life. Every time they wear those necklaces, they don't carry a reminder of betrayal. They carry proof that even the deepest heartbreak can become the beginning of something stronger. Looking back, I don't remember the night I saw another woman wearing my wedding ring as the day my marriage ended. I remember it as the day 2 women stopped believing one man's lies and finally chose the truth instead.